We're talking about, we spoke a great expanse about the shemesh, the sun, and because the sun is the one tangible situation where we have something to discuss that we can actually think about and wait and delve into it. And then from this we say that the similar thing is in Chayes HaNefesh. That transition is quite natural, quite obvious. Surely the Nefesh is Mechaya the Guf by being by its presence. It gives the Guf its presence, its chayos, and this is how the Guf lives. And then we came to the next step. Chayes HaNefesh in the Guf is not only the principle that the Guf is alive, but there is also specific functions that the Guf draws from the Nefesh, or the Nefesh supplies to the Guf. That stage of it is not b'derech mamela. If speaking would be derech mamela, we would be pronouncing gibberish all the time. And the same applies to all the functional koiches. Not only speaking, but even seeing, looking at something. And the Rebbe says, very briefly, and again, he's asking us to bring out finer level of intelligence. That level of intelligence that we observe and we see the reality without the need of elaborating on it. Yeah, this cup has had better times.
Pardon? Oh, it's leaking.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Right here. And this is where the Rebbe goes in and points to the difference. The way the nefesh is mislabish in the guf, we say that is b'derech mamela. Despite the fact that it has to go through a tzimtzum, that does not change the fact that it's b'derech mamela. Meaning, derech mamela, as we discussed a lot, that it is the aspect of nefesh that goes into the guf that gives it chayes. It is not a guf element, it's a nefesh element, except the nefesh has to find a means to relate to the guf, to recognize the guf. But it remains a nefesh element. And that is to be distinguished from the koches protein from the individual koiches which come through what's called kelim, specific kelim. What is a keli versus a guf? A keli, like we always give the very simplest of all the illustrations. Again, we have to have sensitivity to this. If you fill up a cup with water, and you fill up a pail with water, the water is exactly the same water.
As in the pail?
As in the pail.
Yeah.
As in the lake.
Right.
But we can readily understand the phenomenal difference between water in a cup, water in a pail, water in a lake. To go straight across, water in a cup speaks about the function, the specific function of water. Let's speak about water per se. This inyan, that you can identify in the water a specific function, requires that the water be put in a keli, and that the keli should represent that function. And then you identify in the water, yes, water has a function. The koiches nefesh that mislabish in the guf. The nefesh gives chayes to the guf. Once the guf is alive, now the guf is in a position to receive the nefesh in totality. All the function, all the richness that the nefesh can bring along. But this richness will not be identified at the guf level unless the guf asks for it. Picks up this particular inyan. The nefesh will not tell the guf, listen, I know how to speak.
Unless the guf picks up this particular, as if to say this faculty is initiated by the body.
It is identified by the body. In other words, because the nefesh comes into the guf, such a guf that has this kelim, that identifies in the nefesh that particular function.
Wait, but who says, I want to speak? Surely that originates above the guf? Or not necessarily?
The guf does not say, I want to speak. But God created the world, the guf, in a manner that it tells the nefesh that there is a speech faculty, speech capability. And that elicits from the nefesh dinim for speech. In other words, speech is not something that the nefesh forces upon the guf. Speech is something that is solicited by the guf from the nefesh. Where does the guf get this kind of a intelligence to wonders? Yes, it was created by God that way. But this is a specific keli. This is called a keli that was built specifically to receive and accommodate the function of speech. It's easier to understand if we talk about the function of sight. The eye is a physical organ like everything else, but the eye is built in such a manner and of such material that it is.
To remain on this call, press 1.
That it is related to the function of sight. And this is why it draws from the nefesh the sight element.
Wait, so the nefesh has some kind of element of sight, which is then sort of activated by.
Okay, so this is what I want to discuss. Let's talk about it for a moment. the nefesh does not have physical sight. The physical sight first, as identified and materializes when there is a keli for it. But the nefesh has the element of sight on the nefesh level. Sight at the nefesh level is called chochmah. This chochmah is translated into physical sight, where the nefesh is mislabish in a goof, and the goof has eyes. This is true regarding all the functions that the goof identifies, draws from the nefesh. But this is what you have to explain and understand. That yes, this koich is drawn from the nefesh, but this is not drawn automatically, just like chayes is automatically. Chayes is chayes, it's nefesh. But these koiches have to be first identified and solicited. And then the goof has to be so perfectly formed to identify with this koyach. Not just to allow it, identify with this koyach. Not like the goof that does not identify with chayes. Chayes is brought to it from the nefesh. Sight is, the eye is identified with the koyach of sight. And this is how this sight is identified from the nefesh and is brought down from the nefesh into the eye. At the nefesh level, sight is a completely different principle. But then this principle is translated in the eye, at the eye level. If we did not have, I don't know if we can project that, but I'm going to say it, try to think about it. If we did not have the faculty, the capability of chochmah, we would not be able to exercise sight. Because if anything that we can deal with is something that we can interpret how meaningful to us, how it touches us, chochmah does not touch us. Sight does not touch us. This went, so to speak, to this level. All this is to distinguish between how the nefesh is mechayas haguf and how the koiches are drawn from the nefesh as individual koiches. And this Rebbe called the chayas and nefesh is called pnimi. The nefesh is a chay pnimi. Each union is to be internalized, to enter internally into the goof, to bring the chayas internally into the goof. Then there is the koiches, which require a specific design of a koyach, of a nail. So specific that it can be readily identified with the koyach. That's when the koyach relates to the sefer. This is not b'derech mamela. This is, in fact, an active pursuit on the part of the Aver. To draw this koyach and develop this koyach. This is not b'derech mamela. So let's look inside. By the top line on Kuf Lamed Ches. Hachona protis, a hachona of a specific nature. Li yesh boy gile hakoyach, so that in this aver there should be gile hakoyach, the expression of this koyach, mebchinas oipnimi mamos. This is called oipnimi mamos. And the word mamash, and it is up to us to understand the significance of that mamash. What is the difference between oipnimi, as we say in the nefesh, and oipnimi mamash, as we're talking about now? Oipnimi is at the nefesh. It is pnimi. The nefesh enters b'pnimis into the goof. But it is the nefesh that brings this chayas into the goof. The goof does not solicit it. The nefesh brings this chayas. That's why it's called b'derech mamela. Whereas the koiches are not b'derech mamela. That's why the koiches is called pnimi mamosh. It is something that the nefesh actually relates to the saver. And it's the Eiver that calls forth this koyach from the nefesh. Phenomenal thing. This is the preparation of the koyches, of the Eivorim, so that the chayas and nefesh will come. They begil hakoychet b'pchinas pnimi mamos. Pnimi mamos means that there's a total relationship between the koyach and the Eiver and the kelim.
Come on.
What's the matter?
Go ahead.
Shezehu, okay, we go further. Shezehu tolui, this Indian that there should be opening in mamos, it is actually related and depends on bezichu hakeli. It depends very much on the refinement of the keli. The keli has to be worked with and refined to be able to receive the koyach, and the more the keli is refined, the more the koyach can function in this keli. Ukmoi, as for example, b'choy me'hamoyach, the material of the brain, shehu kishehu koyim chomer dak. If the moyach is the material of the moyach is chomer dak is a very fine material, sensitive material. Harehu keili yeser lekabel oyer tzurus asech. Then this moyach is a better keili to receive the oil of the seichel. Shemizgala beyeser, where in this moyach that the material of this moyach is of a finer quality. So then the seichel is mizgala in this moyach better mikmoy be moyach av than a coarser moyach. V'chol ma shemizachech choymroi. And as much as a person is mezachach, he's refining the choymer of the moyach, yoser, harei mizgale bei oyer haseichel b'yisur. Then you can behold and see that the oyer haseichel become mizgale by him more. The oyer haseichel is mizgale in a finer moyach.
This chomer hamoyach is talking about the physical tissue of the brain.
Exactly.
Usually we say, we have the expression, this idea was so fine he could not pick it up with his hand, to illustrate how they're not on the same continuum. But here we seem to say, oh, if the material of the brain.
No, you're skipping something.
Yes.
The brain gets the seichel, and the seichel picks it up, not the brain.
What's that mean? The brain gets the seichel.
There's a koyach seichel.
What?
There's a koyach seichel.
Like koyach re'iyah, there's a faculty that rests in a certain physical organ.
Right. Mustn't forget how we introduced the whole idea of koyches before. Sight exists in the nefesh, but the nefesh doesn't exist in physical sight. The nefesh cannot see the physical entity. In order to translate the nefesh into physical, then there has to be a physical eye. But how is it related to nefesh? The answer is that in nefesh there is sight, but the nefesh is a nefesh level sight. If not for that sight, for the chochmah, there would be no possibility for us to see physically. Chochmah is translated on the physical level, in the sight, in the physical sight, which is imbued in the eye.
And just to define what we're talking about, when we say physical sight, we mean physical human sight,
Mm-hmm.
because other creatures also see and they lack chochmah.
What is the definition of chochmah? What is the difference between human sight and other creatures' sight?
Or the element of significance and meaning, I guess.
There's much more to that, but this is a first step. But by our sight, we relate to what we see automatically, because we see that which is significant, and that is why we see it. This is the chochmah in the human being. The animal also sees what's significant, but what's significant to the animal?
What it can eat or what will harm
Edible, or dangerous, threatened.
it. Okay, so back to seichel. Somehow the brain is physical organ, but yet it is appropriate.
Okay, now seichel is a koyach hanefesh. Just starting from chochmah. Chochmah clearly understand that the chochmah. There's a nefesh in it. Bina is a nefesh in it, and das is a nefesh in it. And chesed gvura tiferes is also a nefesh in it. These are not worldly reactions. This is nefesh in it. Except in the nefesh, ahava and yira, chesed and gvura apply to Hashem. If there were no ahava and yira to Hashem, we would not be able to have ahava and yira, l'havdil, on the human level. Because it is a nefesh that provides us with these koiches.
Mm-hmm.
In the nefesh, this koich pertains to the reality of nefesh.
Yeah, I guess what's truly astounding is that something as nafshi as seichel ends up resting in a physical organ, and then on top of that, we say the more that it's bedakus, the greater degree of seichel there.
Why do you jump to seichel? Once you jump to sight, sight is even more physical.
I guess because there, I sort of put in the category of more physical.
But still, it's a phenomenal thing.
Well,
You see it at the level of chochmah.
I guess I kind of take that as two stages, namely the human eye allows the vision, but it's seichel truly that lends significance. So I kind of, it's not the human eye that gives significance.
It is the human eye that discerns what you see. Seichel comes in at the next step. Okay, what do I do with it? How do I employ it purposefully? But the human eye identifies the physical sight.
A human eye is there's no comparison to, say, the eye of a chimpanzee in terms of what a human eye can see. And ophthalmologists can consider the eye as part of the human brain.
Well, the reason that human eye is so much different is because the human eye is related to the intellect of the person. Just like, as I said, sight is a reflection of chochmah.
Fine.
No doubt.
Okay, yeah.
There's no doubt of that.
Right. Without the optic nerve, you wouldn't see anything. But anyway, it is still for me the most wondrous that we in this last sentence.
The seichel.
That's I find it's wondrous, but I mean without the optic nerve, you're not going to get a signal to the brain. It's the brain where we say the seat of seichel, like we just said. That's
Okay. The reason that you were so impressed and taken aback by it is that just like we said before, sight is akin to chochmah. Did you ever think of that? Seichel is akin to the sense of value that's in the nefesh. Of the sense of reality, of the sense of of the creator and purpose. That's what seichel is about. That translates seichel on the physical level. It's a pity that the time moves at the same speed, no matter what you do. Yitzchok,
Yes.
can't you do something about that?
No, I have no power to do so.
Why don't you write a poem?
Start by complaining, that's the start. Then you worry about how to do it.
Poem won't change it.
Anyways, yeah, this is quite a challenging union. The challenge over here is for us to bring out our seichel, our true phenomenon of understanding, of recognition, and the sense of the truth in the world. The sense of value in the world, which justifies trying to decipher it. What's the difference between gold and silver? Or diamond and stone? A rock? This materializes, this surfaces once the nefesh is mislabish in the guf, and then the guf brings out specific koichoi, specific functions from the nefesh. These functions exist in nefesh on the nefesh level. But in order to bring these functions on the guf level, on the worldly level, he has to be mislabish in the guf. The nefesh does not give the guf the function of sight directly, of physical sight. The nefesh gives the guf the function of sight at the chochmah level. There is a truth. There's a fundamental truth that if you open your eyes, you just see whatever there is to see. then that gets translated in the goof on the physical level. This is how we come to realize and understand and relate and to accept fully this world is a divine creation. It's a physical entity. It exists because it's a physical entity. Wrong. The truth of its presence defies physicality. The truth of its presence is a divine level. This is the chochmah that the nefesh gives to the goof. This is why when we open our eyes and we see automatically, we see, oh yeah, this is real. This is our challenge then, not to confuse the tangibility of world with the divine truth. Tangibility, I transfer to the word tangibility because tangibility is something which we cannot imagine otherwise. It's undeniable, so to speak. The truth is, however, tangibility is a reflection of an etzem, of an essential truth. Only God, as we spoke many times, can create something which is an essence. The world cannot create an essence. Everything in the world is a composite of various chemicals or various things.
So just that tangibility is an essence. It's very useful because it does away with the idea that the physicality of the world is a steerer or an obstacle. No longer is the physicality of the world.
It's an essence which is divinely provided. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And in a way, it's not that our seichel or our chochmah is imposing meaning onto a cold physical world, but rather we're discerning the meaning that's the purpose that's embedded there.
And this is how we come to accept, ultimately, in a real way, yes, this is a created world. Because the truth that the world stands for is way beyond what the physical entity represents. Just as the truth of the table is way beyond what the physical piece of wood represents. Should we? We should. I just want to come to a... So the Rebbe points out how the avoiding the more you refine the Eber, the better there will be a receptacle for the koyach. Even the seichel. And this is the principle, that the more a person labors with his brain, the more refined his brain becomes, and the better he will be able to have to bring the seichel out and the insight of seichel. Just to interject, we're going to come to this. the finer the food that a person eats, the finer will be his brain, and the more capable he is it will be to understand and to relate to finer thoughts.